8.
So we'll go with that. 9.
What about me?
Who?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay.
Magic number. All right, great. Yeah.
You mentioned a sustainable future. To me, that includes a sustainable population, which might be defined as a population that can continue a reasonable standard of living for the indefinite future using only renewable resources. The question is, what do you think a sustainable population for the United States is, and how do we achieve it?
Yeah, and that's it's certainly not bigger than what we've got.
Can you repeat?
Okay, the question was, how do we get to a sustainable population, and what is it, and say for the United States? And I don't have that magic number, but clearly, we are over the carrying capacity of the planet right now. And, one of the really good solutions out there to the population problem is called reproductive rights for women. Because women have the ability to determine their family size. We find that magically family size goes way down and it happens rather quickly. And this is important not only for the United States, but it's really important as a component of comprehensive health care and health justice, not only in the United States, but really world over. And if we're going to deal with the issue of population pressure around the world, it's really important to ensure that we are providing actually health care and economic justice and opportunity around the world. That is the way to get to population justice and population sustainability. Thank you so much. Number 2 was, okay.
Yes, my name is David Liddell. I'm from San Jose. And twice a week, every week for the last 7 years, I just started my 8th year, I do counter recruitment on high school campuses. And it really disturbs me that military recruiters have free reign to really prey on minors in our high schools. What is your opinion about continuing military recruiters to have free reign to prey on children in our high schools to join the military when you discuss the the state of education with the student loan debt and the rising tuition fees and unemployment? So we really have a poverty draft, and you have military recruiters. Can you please share with everybody your feelings about that?
Yeah, exactly. I thank you for your very important work doing counter recruitment in our high schools. The question was, what was my opinion and the stand of my campaign about recruitment in our high schools and about essentially the economic draft. And I think we need to eliminate the economic draft entirely. And that's in the same way that we need to drastically cut back on this military-industrial security complex that is taking away $1 trillion a year of our taxpayer dollars, actually, to pay for that whole thing. And we need to drastically pull back from this militarism, which has taken over our economy and our culture as well, and to turn to a foreign policy that is based on human rights and on international law to really pull back from this militarism. It is not a defense department we're funding, it's really an offense department, and that is not any way towards a sustainable future. We'll be far better off, and the world will be far better off when we are not the purveyor of arms around the world. U.S. arms exports have tripled in the last year alone. This is absolutely criminal that we are the arms merchant, the merchant of war, arming both sides of conflicts around the world and then conscripting our low-income and communities of color to go fight these wars because we don't have the money here at home to have a real economy. So it's a great self-serving system if you are part of the military-industrial security complex. That's really all who it serves, and I think, you know, that's what this election is about, is taking back our economy so that it serves us in a way that's peaceful, just, and sustainable for the future. Let's see, who was number 3? You know, we were back there. Go ahead.
So I had actually 2 questions specifically with this campaign and further on. One is your strategy going to be to try and get to swing states and focus there? Because I think the moment that third-party candidates is abused in the New York Times, that's when they really made it. It happened in 2000. And the second thing is, what's going to happen with the Green Party after this election? Because one of the big things, and this is a pointed question, is in 2004, the Green Party pretty much failed a lot of people who were waiting for some momentum to come after that. So what are these?
Great, thanks for bringing that up. And in my view, you know, the answer, there's sort of a similar answer to both those questions. The question was, you know, what is our strategy towards swing states? Are we focusing on some states, not others, as a way to break through in the news? And what are our plans after the election? And, you know, our plans for this campaign are very much to lay the groundwork for what happens after the election. We see this as something that doesn't shut down on November 7th. On November 7th, we just move into the next phase of the campaign. And I'm very honest with people that if you sign on for this campaign, don't expect it to end in 7 weeks. You know, this is part of, you know, we're here for the long haul. I'm here myself after 10 years of building the local Green Party, and it was only after I had a real sense of how to build a state party, plus Barack Obama's announcing a year ago that he was going to dismantle Medicare and Social Security as the answer to the debt ceiling crisis. That's what got me into this campaign. But it was not just to protest. You know, it's not just so that the Green Party, and I got involved to help recruit somebody. You know, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would get recruited, but I did. That's what happens when you join a recruiting committee, you know. So, you know, I felt like it made sense to me. It never had before. I had never been involved in a national level campaign because as Greens, you know, we work on grassroots democracy. We build from the bottom up. And it never made sense to me to run national. But over the past 10 years, we built our state party by running headliner campaigns that changed the public perception and the public profile and the sense, you know, it raised the bar for so many people for what we should ask from our political parties, and that we deserve a politics that's of, by, and for the people, not these political predators that we come to think of as establishment politics. So it's very much based on that model of how we can energize the grassroots through a headliner campaign and change the public mindset for what we can achieve, and to really light a fire to that, you know, to that incredible desire for a politics of integrity. So we conduct this campaign with very much a mind to growing the Green Party, to bringing in new members, new volunteers, new donors, reviving the state parties that had gone dormant, because we've gone through a very difficult 10 years where we've been the subject of fear campaigns and smear campaigns. But it's really important to remember, people look at the Green Party and say, oh, you kind of dropped the ball. However, when you compare us to what happened to every other non-corporate independent political party, we are the heroes of the day because we did not go away. We lived to fight another day. No other independent political party did. We'll be having a broad discussion when this campaign concludes about what specifically the next steps are. But one of the things that emerges is that there are many cities around the country where the Greens have really taken a hold. We're on city councils. We have some either current mayors, or I have candidates who are moving up through their city councils that would be great mayors. There are areas where we have a number of candidates that are breaking through into their legislatures. So we hope to do some more targeting. It's been really exciting to be in touch with some of the other Green parties around the world, including in Canada and New Zealand, in Africa as well, and the European Greens who've taken a real interest in the revival now of the Green Party here in this country. One of the things they've done in Canada is target, nationally, they target areas that are ready for a breakthrough, and they help bring national resources to different areas of the country. So we may be considering some options like that. So be advised, you're not off the hook on November 7th.
Thank you. So listening to the Green New Deal plan sounds really exciting. One thing I was thinking is a lot of people might be concerned about the expansion of the size and power of the federal government, if that would be part of what might happen. So I'm just curious about your perspective and or the Green Party's perspective on how that may or may not be dangerous and why or why not.
Great, great. So the question is, what about expanding the scope and the power of the federal government? And so we actually build that into the Green New Deal. I didn't have time to go into those details, but it's intended to be nationally funded but locally controlled. So decisions are made by local communities. In fact, we hope to strengthen local communities and their decision-making powers and abilities, because it creates a process at the community level like participatory budgeting, so that communities are deciding themselves what kind of jobs they need to create to become sustainable, not only ecologically but also socially and economically. So a broad spectrum of jobs, from the traditional green jobs in clean renewable energy and conservation, local organic sustainable agriculture, public transportation, etc., as well as teachers, child care, home care, affordable housing, etc. A broad spectrum of jobs and communities decide, and the monies are dispersed based on need. That is, where unemployment rates are highest, those communities receive proportional increases in those national funds. And how do you fund it? Right now we're squandering trillions on wars, Wall Street bailouts, and tax breaks for the wealthy. Trillions. More than enough to pay for a Green New Deal.
My question is really like a lot of the single payer stuff, and and I think it's great that they're limiting insurers' ability to basically jack up prices, basically the large giveaway, which ACA is. What do you really think is the way forward for limiting the amount of sway that prescription drug companies have, and also medical providers? They, like, MRIs at one place that I went to cost 15 grand, and another place, at Stanford, they cost 30 grand for what I needed done. So, it's hugely expensive.
Great. So, I don't know if everybody could hear the question. Was, so how will you, limit expenditures under a single-payer system? And, how do you limit the boondoggles for pharmaceutical companies and for medical devices and equipment and technology and so forth? So let me answer that in two ways really quickly. One is that the advantage of a single-payer system is that you can bargain, and you should bargain. And it's inexcusable that Medicare, had this pharmaceutical benefit attached to it that was denied the power to bargain. So it's basically another guaranteed market for the pharmaceutical companies. So this is part of how a single-payer system could and should and must function, is to be able to cut these these wheelers and dealers down to size so that they're receiving basically a fair price, and they're not able to extort just outrageous payments for their devices. We get to call the shots. And I want to add one other thing about healthcare. What we have right now is a sick care system. It's not a health care system. We spend over $2 trillion every year on this as government and individuals and businesses. It's over $2 trillion. It's twice as much as the military-industrial security complex, if you can imagine that. And in spite of that, 75% of our healthcare dollars are spent treating chronic diseases that would be prevented at a fraction of the cost if we had the right things up front. Well, what are those right things? Like a healthy local food supply, which provides fresh food that's far more nutritious and so on, a more plant-based food supply, instead of this kind of frankenfood system that's really, we're poisoned essentially 3 times a day. This is why we're sick. It has a lot to do with why we're sick. We need to actually put our dollars and create the incentives and lower the prices for the foods that are actually healthy rather than these concocted. We want to look at Tunisia and Tahrir Square as the real examples here, where people said they weren't going to take it anymore. They started to stand up. We're seeing that now within the peace movement, within the single-payer Medicare for All movement. We're seeing real leadership within those really well-organized, large networks, within the foreclosure movement, within the anti-poverty movement, with the leadership of the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign that Shamako represents, who spoke earlier, and which my running Sherry Honkala, is a key organizer for. People stand up and lead the way forward with the politics of courage, and I think it's all about getting the word out